So without further ado, I'll pass the microphone to Flora. Thank you.
So, public map. So imagine an inclusive, trustworthy, and transparent planning system based on data. This is where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the world of inclusive participation. And the idea of public map is that it's an important step in this direction. It's a demonstration that our interactive maps can improve decision-making, democracy, and resource use. So we're making this big, deep data map. And public map is also demonstrating the vital role of the arts in understanding building and places and the way people feel. Because in my work, we can't do planning engagement without bringing the arts on board to make it more deep, more exciting, and more fun. Okay, so this is a collaboration between Cardiff Uni, Wrexham, and Bangor, and with these kind of supporters that are going on. But we're based on the Isle of Anglesey in Ynys-Môn. So, okay, sorry to be planning geeky here, but you would think that planning system would be based on reliable data about things. And what we're arguing for is a planning system which is based on layers of social data, layers of cultural data, environmental data, layers of economic data, and actually layers of cultural data. More and more in my work, you see, we just cannot function without the cultural data. And then all this stuff would be freely available, and then people would make decisions on it. Now, this is a bit of a fantasy world, but there's more and more people getting on board to make a picture like this. And it's particularly good in the context of Wales, because they have the future generations at Wales, all about well-being and well-being outcomes. So what we're doing in Public Map is we're making a big, deep data map of Anglesey as a pilot for other places. And to do this, we're getting on a team of mappers, community mappers, training people up to put stuff onto maps, all kinds of data onto maps. Big focus on children, young people. This is Rhys the Bard. The picture I was going to show is of Wales is a very strong bardic tradition. And there we are, the Bard. And I love this painting because in me, there's the Bard up there going, ah, and bewailing climate change. And that's why we have 3 bards as part of the project, to come along, have these deep conversations with people about how they feel. And this is one of our bards, Rhys, working in the scene in Newborough. The bards have brought such richness to the project, and I think this is such a role for outdoor arts. So we're going out there, we're teaching how to use digital map, using OpenStreetMap. We gather data, poetry, films, song, and just buildings and stuff. Whatever data you want to put in, with the emphasis on being positive. And we've been working across the island in schools, as Lisa the Bard, making maps with kids of kids' experience. Sorry, so I have to click many times to get any... Oh, there we are. There's a kid map, basically showing how the bus driver never, ever stops for the kids when they're trying to get anywhere. It's really throwing some really interesting light on the experience of kids in rural places. And then we're working with kids, we designed this thing, which is the rural roaming room. I don't know if you've come across this idea of the urban room. We set up an urban room in Cambridge, the Cambridge room. There's one in Folkestone, which is very art-based, but it's a place to talk about planning futures. So with the kids, we designed the structure, the rural roaming room. It's out of ash dieback, and deployed it in various sites across the island at events called the Llais, voice places. And they're kind of post-industrial places, so a lot of discussion is about climate change. Yeah, and so doing community engagement in a rural place, and we've really shown how valuable that is. People want to talk about the beauty of these places. We've been co-curating activities with teenagers. They've been doing projects using our maps as part of their Welsh Baccalaureate. I mean, this is a print made by one kid, Madison, and what did she say about the experience of working in our kind of like festival atmosphere? Made her feel adventurous, observant, joyous, happy, lost in thought, alive and equal and relaxed. I mean, this was after about an hour and a half there. You would have think she'd been at a 4-day Kundalini retreat. It was just so powerful. So this was an event that was set up, it was paid for by the Adverse Child Experiences Hub in Wales, because they wanted to know how the effect of these kinds of events on people's well-being. And of course, we're doing all of this in the Welsh language as well.
Flora, time is up. So
Oh, yeah, sorry,
yeah.
I'll nip through it. Okay. Sorry, I'm hindered by the speed of the doodah. Okay, thatching with kids, with real live materials from the beach. Young farmer, he's got a award for being a super mapper, but in a way he's telling about his experience of being a mapper, of being a farmer, which is quite shocking, the experience of losing all his animals to illness and all these other things. So a whole wealth of experience comes through. We're hoping that public map is going to be adopted by the Welsh Government. It's really getting good traction with the future generations people. These are some examples of kind of maps that are coming through. Sorry, Antoinette, I'm going to be super quick. Interesting comparison between the published data and lived experience, completely different, and that's one of the things we're working on. And we're developing these centres in other areas, including Cambridge. So just to summarise really, public map is a set of services that helps communities, organisations, schools and authorities gather insight, build understanding and turn lived experience, creativity and fun into meaningful local action. You can put anything into these maps. So we do community mapping programs, we do educational resources, organisational data support. If you've got something you want data on, will help. And we do research. But really, I would say it's time to put outdoor arts onto the map. You know how strong the impact is of what you do. And until we record it in a way that can be translated through to the systems that we have, impact is going to be limited. So thank you for your time. And sorry,
Thank you very much, Flora. And so now we have Latoya, and to take your place, and then the website of Public Map is actually on the bottom of the slide as well, if you made a note of it.
I am Latoya McAllister-Jones. There we go, that took 5 clicks. And I'm going to just give you a brief introduction into me, the work that I've been doing, and leave you with a sort of provocation for you to think about as we move through the panel. I've been thinking a lot about culture as a catalyst for change. I have always been, I think my work has always been on the edge of social justice and social equality. I started out working in the homelessness sector. I became a community organiser, moved into change management, which was about connecting strategy and delivery operations. And when I moved into culture, when I moved to Bristol, it was because I realised that culture can be used as a tool for social justice, and that was really exciting to me. It brought together my interest in participatory democracy and culture and arts. Move along quicker. So the moment that I think we're in at the moment, and I did a talk on this in November last year. As a society, we're quite divided. As a global society, we're quite divided politically, socially, and culturally. The space for empathy is shrinking, and I really think that culture has it. When we have a conversation through culture, we start that conversation in a different place. It is about our shared experiences, not our beliefs. And I think that opens up a whole raft of space for interesting and generative conversation. Moving on quicker. Whilst I was thinking about this moment that we're in, I'm also really aware that as practitioners, and just as human beings, it feels like we're in a really difficult space. So to ask people to feel joyous through their work and their practice can feel quite jarring. So I started to think about some of the things that are sitting with me at the moment, and there's a lot of uncertainty in our lives. And I thought, how do I convert that to something generative and that has momentum? So the uncertainty that I'm feeling, I've converted into agility. The fear that I feel about the space that we're in at the moment, I think that we need to be brave. The anger that I feel is about moving that anger to challenge, constructive challenge, and the lack of trust. I think we really need to be thinking about how we put empathy into that space. And I think that culture enables us to convert some of these hard, crunchy feelings that we're probably going to feel for a while to something that we can create with. 1 minute 45. Okay, so the work that I'm doing now, the work that I've just finished delivering a citizens' assembly. 51 people from across the west of England came together to deliberate over what the cultural strategy should look like for the region. That piece of work has been adopted by our combined authority, and it is now about the 51 citizens randomly chosen. Their work is now the cultural strategy for the region for the next 3 years. An assembly brings together ordinary citizens, not the usual suspects. It's like a room you've never been into. These guys are never going to the pub together. You have different ages, different ethnicities, different political beliefs, and it's about coming together to learn, to deliberate, and to decide. And where culture fits, I think, in this is that, and I've heard this while I've been here, during the pandemic, culture was the conduit for us to stay connected. And I think that our lived experience is really the story that helps to build our empathy between each other, and we get to find out more about where people are and find that space for consensus, even if we don't find a space to change people's minds. Assemblies are not about changing people's minds. Assemblies are about finding consensus and understanding what the trade-offs are. How it works, random selection. We then onboard those people and build confidence and trust in that process. During the process of assembly, we build ground rules, how we're going to all engage together, and it's a shared responsibility. It's a very adult-to-adult process. It's not about, that's my time. I'm going to try and be really quick. And I guess St. Paul's Carnival, what I learned from being there, during the pandemic is about how do you connect people when we are in a siloed space during the pandemic? Why is it important to connect people? And that also that people will engage if they feel valued and represented. Our cultural plan, it's about deliberation, not debate. It's about understanding the trade-offs and listening to find consensus, not to win. And our politics, our current politics is adversarial, and it's all about winning and beating down. Assemblies are not about winning, they're about trying to find consensus. What that teaches us, inclusion is hard, especially across divides. We have to move beyond tribal thinking, assume less, listen more, and hold our values and hold space for others. That's my last slide. So, the provocation I want to leave you with is how do you stay in the room when it gets uncomfortable, and what is the space for culture within that?
Thank you very much. So we'll get to our next speaker now, Aretha.
Okay, don't start that timer yet.
Let me know when you're ready and I'll start the timer.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Hi everyone, I'm here in my capacity as Chair of 18 Hours Board and Head of Culture for London Borough of Hounslow, two very, very different places. But I'm going to briefly spotlight some incredible work done by 18 Hours in East Sussex and Waterman's in Hounslow. I know both Mandy and Jan are in the room, so you can talk to them afterwards. And I really hope that through spotlighting this, I'm able to communicate how, by understanding people and place, outdoor arts can really respond to local needs and set the ambition and strategic direction for culture. So, let's start with Waterman's as an organisation based in Hounslow, and amongst other incredible things, they deliver a seasonal programme at Bell Square, which is a performance space on Hounslow High Street, for those that don't know. It's surrounded by heavy traffic, there are buses, there are low-flying airplanes because we are right next to Heathrow. So any show really needs to be robust enough to stand up to that urban context. The audience is varied in terms of pretty much everything, age, ethnicity, language. Many of the diverse communities are made up of people who have English as a second or third or fourth language, or none at all. So you can imagine that language barriers exist, and so it's very rare that they will program anything that relies on text. And nearly all the shows are around physical or visual theatre, dance, contemporary circus, or digital. And there's a high turnover of population in the borough. So every year it's likely that there is new people in the area that you might want to attract. So programming has to respond to what the audience is, where they are, and take them forward. The trajectory of the program really pushes the audiences a little bit more in different ways. And to understand what will work, Waterman's developed their understanding and relationship with other communities, grassroots organisations, and visitors to their show. So stewards on the ground will speak to audiences before and after the show, and ask questions which will feed into future programming. So how did the event make you feel? Did you feel more or part of the community? What difference does it make to have it on the street? And these questions really do support the council as well and our way forward, particularly at a time when there is limited funding or support in terms of commissioning. But it is that depth of understanding the communities that makes them such a solid partner for us and for strategic conversations about accessible arts for all and specifically to our location. Oh, hang on, where's it going? There we go. Like Waterman's, 18 Hours responds to local priorities. There is emphasis, specialism, and a commitment to global learning and consideration placed on catering for diverse audiences, often operating in pockets. Knowing the organisations who work with these communities and those that least engage with culture is paramount to understanding the local need and really helping to understand what that need is for those audiences. And really ensuring that people see artists and performers who look like them to not only inspire but also to build connection. Testing the needs of the town and its people is essential. So this is a coastal town, and as an example, 18 Hours worked with partners including the University of Brighton and East London to bring 5 areas of research together with a reference to their annual light festival, Bexhill After Dark. So the research really captured residents and measured attitudinal change in community light festivals through targeted focus groups. So the research has not only supported future programming for the organisation, but it really has shared and helped support investment and development of arts and culture in that town. So how does this all fit into a culture strategy? Both these organisations have found ways to listen, to understand the voices of the communities that they serve and what is needed. And delivering free quality arts programming at a local level in the heart of the communities who need it the most, many of whom have experiences like this for the first time, or look forward to annual festivals of pride. So I truly believe that when people have access to quality arts experience, they gain opportunities for personal growth, improved well-being, increased imagination, deeper connection. We've heard all about this morning. For us in Hounslow, ensuring that everyone, regardless of their background or circumstance, can engage with outstanding cultural experiences is a matter of equity and strategic investment in cultural, economic and civic vitality. Both these organisations have roots within the community and their programmes go into community participation, providing platforms for local people and supporting others to make decisions about what they want to see. Very, very quickly, I will just move to this. I'm not going to go into this in great detail. I don't have a lot of time, but what I do want to say is that these are some of our considerations, not mine, but our considerations when thinking about a culture strategy, looking at who's around the table and whose voices we are hearing. So reaching into the communities and really understanding what is needed, both internally, so am I talking to our regeneration teams, Am I talking to transport? Am I talking to health? To understand what resources they have and to also help educate them on how culture can reach and spread across the divides, but also when it comes to financial placing, where they can support most. And collectively around measures, again, we've heard a lot about data today, but really how that data feeds into programming in the future. And then finally, this was going to be my provocation. Who are culture strategies for? I think we've talked a lot about this today, so I don't really think this is the question. I don't know what the question is, but I think it has to be around strategy and it has to be about long-term support for culture and the arts.
Thank you. And thank you very much. And then Ali?
I think it can stay there.
Alistair, your time now. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I just want to take you back to this morning and Claire's provocation, which I absolutely loved, and to ask again, who are we and why are we here? For me, 41 years ago, I was in India, working with theatre director Habib Tanvir on a community arts project. But I had a degree in politics, a passion for justice, and I was looking for answers. One evening, he said, Ali, if you want to change the world, you need to be an artist. And if you want to know anything about culture and politics, you need to come to Calcutta. So after several months, what I carried back with me to the UK was a heightened awareness that wherever you were in India, you were with artists. Every market stall, every pleated sari, every painted doorway was an artwork created with love and attention, woven into the very fabric of everyday life. So one thing leads to another, and over the decades, a narrative unfolds. At Connecticut, the thread that holds it all together is the silk, hand-woven in India, always connecting us back to our source. For 30 years, we have reimagined time and time again how we can use it to invite everyone in, whether at home in our studio, or presenting monumental flags that connect communities across continents, or parading up the Mall for the Queen's Jubilee, where the key workers from Thurrock were publicly thanked. After 15 years of Carnival, we headed out of London in search of a studio and arrived in Thurrock. We were invited to create a walking arts festival. Knowing very little about the landscape, we quickly realized that the only way to begin was to listen. So we did that as we walked 100 miles. We heard so many stories that over the years have been translated into all manner of flags and to be presented at our annual Walking, Talking and Making Festival, the T100. Since 2016, we've all been through Brexit, COVID, climate emergencies, and now we're living in a profound moment of national fracture. How do we find it in ourselves to keep responding? So what if we ask people to look again? What might we see differently? Here, on this scruffy stretch of the Thames estuary, the foreshore glistened, drawing attention of Guardian journalist Kevin Rushby, who discovered hundreds of shards of broken glass that had been dumped there after the Blitz in 1945. What dreams were shattered when the bomb went off, he wrote. This is the beach of broken dreams. I wondered, what if we shone a spotlight on all these glistening gems strewn along our fragmented foreshore? Could we not find the beach of dreams? In 2021, we invited 500 people to adopt a mile along the East Coast and to imagine what it might be like for their great-great-grandchildren. We turned their images into 500 silks, and as we walked, we invited each person to be the leader of their own mile. We scaled the model up to become a national festival in May 2025. 8 regional partners walked with their communities with a commissioned artist, and they arrived at a question and then created their own specific response in the form of a new artwork. We'd set off from home, from Tilbury, and we went to Colwyn Bay in Wales. and to South Shields, and then on to Belfast in Northern Ireland, down the coast of Fife, and then back to Great Yarmouth. And then in September, we performed a finale bringing it all together in Weymouth. And thank you to everyone in the room who's been part of making this happen. So what was the impact? We have hundreds of local events, 500 climate commitments, thousands of participants, huge audiences. The numbers stack up. But for those involved, what remains with us is how we felt. In May, connected, joyful, and hopeful. In the words of one participant, a fleeting moment of national unity.
What intrigued me about Beach of Dreams was the generosity of the project that allows people at a local level to feel very connected, authentic, trusting, walking and being immersed in a time and space that's very specific but also very evocative can really help people to understand their imaginaries.
It's everything I wanted it to be at this stage. And then we've met so many wonderful people who are doing so much, and we've inspired so many more. I had the vision of connecting lots and lots of small local communities as those glistening gems around our foreshore, and shining a spotlight on what they're doing.
So what was a moment became a month, became a year, 6 decades. We've all been integral in creating these fleeting moments that stay with people, reshape how they see themselves and where they live, and quietly change what feels possible. That's who we are, why we are here, and what sustains us. The responsibility to keep walking, to keep talking, to keep making, and pass the baton on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you very much for all those provocations. I think we can see the different themes and areas and how everything can actually be woven together in, to make sort of place-based strategies much stronger. Now we're going to do a little bit of an activity on Mentimeter, I believe. So if you can take your phones, Slido. So I hope you all know how to use Slido. I know that Slido was used earlier on this morning. So scan the QR code, or you can go to the slido.com and enter the number. So once everybody is in, I think Shaw will be actually putting the answers together to the questions on the screen. And basically, the question that gets the most votes is the first question that we're going to be asking the panel, and so forth. So, Sean, just let me know when you're ready, and then you can put it on the screen then. Thank you. All right, so since the questions are not coming through yet, what I will do, of course, I have a few questions that are already pre-prepared in case that technical, basically the tech doesn't work. So in a way, I'm just going to ask about listening to vocal voices. Like, how does it go from engagement to intelligence? And if one of the panelists that does not want to answer the question, that's fine. You can pass it on to the next person, okay? So what do you think good listening looks like in practice in your work? Now, just take a couple of minutes only so we can get more questions through. So, Ali, would you like to start with the first one?
Yes, that's working. So I think I outlined that we started our work in Thurrock by listening. And so we did that in the first year. We listened to all the stories. And what we were able to do by being in a place for 12 years is to build on the stories year after year. So we were able to gain trust and knowledge, and then together with the community to keep building on. So I think it's the listening then informs the shape of the work, and then the making creates the work, and then the next year you build on that work by listening again, and so it kind of keeps going.
Thank you. Aretha, would you like to answer?
Yeah. So I think the listening really involves a number of people, understanding who you create space for, who would naturally turn up. We also make sure that as a local authority, we're listening to the organisations on the ground, that they have the space to tell us what change looks like and what's needed, but also ensuring that that listening goes somewhere, that we are capturing it, that we are looking at how we make change through some of the suggestions that are being made. Obviously, not everything is possible, but actually being able to understand how people are facing things in real life on the ground is really important. For strategies.
Thank you. Now I'll go to this side. Latoya, would you want to answer that question or not?
Yeah, I can do. Some of the questions that are coming up on the screen allude to this as well. I think looking at it from a citizens' assembly point of view, deep listening is about setting the parameters, setting the ground rules. It's also really about being people coming to the table understanding that there's no judgment in that. And funnily enough, citizens' assemblies, the organisation that helps citizens' assemblies go through a randomisation process, it's called sortition. And they've done a poll, and reform voters are really very, very into the idea of assemblies, and it's because they don't feel that they're listened to. And the way that an assembly is set up is that people don't come into the room feeling that they're there for their minds to be changed. Nobody's going to listen if they come to that thinking that they're going to be browbeaten. It's about setting the parameters for that, making sure that people respect other people's views within the room, and that there are consequences for breaking those rules. And we use them all the time in training and all of that kind of stuff, but this work is, the onboarding that goes on for a citizens' assembly is so intentional, it's so slow, because by the time those people get in the room, and these people are from all different types of backgrounds, political persuasions, educational attainment. By the time they get in that room, we've already done that groundwork to make sure that people will feel that their views can be valued and listened to without judgment. So I think that there's a whole load of preparation that needs to go into properly being able to engage and listen to people.
Thank you. And Flora?
Oh, well, it's a really good question, and I completely agree with everything that's been said so far. I'll work with Public Map, where it's a trauma-informed council. We've been having a lot of trauma-informed training, trying to learn how to be sensitive, really, to people as individuals. And I think, in our case, we make the maps, we make data maps for people, but it's the conversations along the way. So I think sometimes it's the conversations while you're making stuff can be really powerful. But we've been doing a lot of work on different kinds of inclusion and ways of being respectful to that and having quiet spaces for people and trying to prepare people for experiences and really showing that we are trying to include everybody. I mean, obviously, we're not going to manage it, but also being kind of explicit around that. So I think good listening is about being clear about what you're doing and what you're not doing and being upfront about it too.
Thank you. So now we have the questions basically on the screens. You can see them behind me. And it is very interesting to know the question that got the most votes, which is basically, what do we do when it gets uncomfortable in the room? Now, we're not talking about when it gets uncomfortable here, sitting in front of the audience in the panel, like a panel, right? But what do we do? So I'm just going to start with Aretha, and then we'll go through different and try to keep them short so we can get more questions through.
Run for your lives. No, I think when it gets uncomfortable in the room, you need to have those conversations about why it's feeling uncomfortable, which can be uncomfortable in itself, right? But there has to be some sort of honesty and authenticity to these conversations, and that means that we have to be bold and brave.
Great, bold and brave. That's good. Would you like to answer? All right, that's okay. Now, what about on this side? Flora, would you like to go first since you have the microphone? Yeah.
On being uncomfortable. I mean, I should say our main uncomfortable thing we have when we're map making is when people want to put things on the map that are illegal. And the ethical thing around where kids go and smoke weed and things that perhaps shouldn't be put on the map. That's quite uncomfortable. And we haven't cracked it yet. It's something we're thinking about. What should go on the map and what shouldn't?
Thank you. Toya?
I don't think we have a right to feel comfortable all the time. I don't believe that. I think that when I start to feel uncomfortable, my job is to sit on my hands and ask myself what's making me uncomfortable. I think that we are in a time where everybody wants to feel comfortable all of the time, and I don't believe that's right. I think that we have to be challenging ourselves more, our personal responsibility. And I'm not talking about being in spaces where harm is being caused. That's a different proposition. But I think there are lots of things that make us feel uncomfortable. And I think there's something quite interesting about leaning into that and finding out what you learn and breaking through that barrier. It's about bravery.
Thank you. And now, oops, the question, oh yeah, there it is. So now, it is interesting that the previous question about being uncomfortable relates to this other question, because it's like, how can outdoor arts push against the growing influence of corporate power over communities? And I would say so many times when we need to have that conversation, it becomes very uncomfortable as well. So Ali, would you like to answer these questions about, sort of like corporate power, basically the growing influence?
Have a go. I think it's about authenticity, and I think one of the things related to what we get funded to do, I think there's a huge amount. That's when we get very pushed to make it work within the funding, and then you might have to look to getting corporate work to make the books balance, if you like, and then that distracts you from what you're really trying to do with your communities. So how can we do all these things of listening, being, having conversations against difference, if we're also then having to go and work in the commercial sector to do the work that really matters? So I think that what my hope would be that we can have a conversation with the people that support our work, support our values, about how much we can really achieve, and can we just focus on something that we do really well and just keep doing it really well and not get diversified in hundreds of different directions.
Thank you. Now, Aretha, I see you sort of nodding and sort of agreeing to it. Would you like to add anything to what Ali had to say?
You're tough. I don't think I do want to add anything to what Ali says. I think that, you understand the power of your work, and it's about how you communicate that. Not all I think the way that the question is phrased makes it seem very negative, and I don't think that's always the case. So there are situations where corporately we can come together with the arts and create something really meaningful, and also ensure that there's some sustainability around that. So yeah, I think that's...
Thank you. Now, what about on this side? Latoya? All right. And Flora, would you have anything else to add?
Well, just to add really, so in our work, the reason we're making these community maps of people's feelings, what they care about, working with outdoor arts to make these maps happen, is so that these experiences are on the map so they can be seen. And alongside other kinds of more formal evidence. And so I think a really important part is to capture people's experience in a way that can actually funnel into the systems, planning systems, and so on. And I think it's going to be made a lot easier with AI, actually, shortly. So I think technology can help with that. So really, we just got to evidence our impact. Unfortunately, we live in an audit culture. We all know what's good. We all know what a fabulous impact people in this room have, but we've got to tell the story in a language that people can do business with.
Great, thank you. And the power of technology, we seem to have another question that who's missing from the room has come lower now. So we're going to go to the one that has more votes again. So how do we empower the aspirations, the taste of our communities in culturally deprived and economically deprived areas? Now there's another very interesting question, and we can just keep it short as well, so we don't have enough much time. So would you like to answer? Or? Oh, that side of the room. Okay, popular vote, you said that side of the room. Flora?
All right, okay. I mean, so we're working in a very so-called left-behind rural area. And I don't know, I think there's a lot about just being there, working with people from the place, making jobs for people in the place, just being of the place. And in our case, working with the Welsh language is really important. So it's just a very long process, and building trust and building relationships. Yeah, no swift fixes on that one from my end.
Thank you. Latoya?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Flora. I think outreach is really important, and going to where people are, I'm not expecting them to come to you, is part of that. I think, just again, looking at it from a citizens' assembly model, it is about removing our own assumptions when we're programming, when we're delivering to people. Part of the reason why I married my love of assemblies with my love of culture is because as the chief exec of St Paul's Carnival, I led an organisation that provided a platform from the community. We don't exist without the community, and it's quite different from a lot of the other cultural organisations in Bristol, or other art forms that have a much more transactional relationship with their audience. So for me, the audience, our communities are absolutely everything. So it's not about mining data from them, it's about actually putting that lived experience into what we do. It's the other way around. It's not about delivering to, it's about delivering with, and really valuing what they bring to the table.
Thank you. Anything else to add from this side?
Yeah, I'll just say as well, I know I've been talking about space and the spaces that we provide, but how are we providing those spaces for people to engage, participate, have a platform for their culture and their and what they want to say and how they want to say it. So I think that going into spaces, listening to people, goes back to that, you know, listening, how we listen, how we take risks, how we put on productions that maybe testing the water and what we learn from that and how we capture it and share it with each other.
And I think I'll just add that also comes down to how we're funded and the structures that funding kind of that we are operating in. needs to consider this question.
Yeah.
Because quite often we're responding to what our funders need us to respond to, and this needs to be built in and embedded into funding processes.
Yeah, thank you. Now, Ali, and very briefly before we wrap up then.
Okay, well, I think it's always best told by a story. So empowering aspirations. So we've designed lots of ways in which people can step in, if you like, come for a walk. And there's an example of a young woman in Tilbury who came for a walk. She came to our studio. She made a brilliant design, and then she became an artist. Then she got a DYCP grant, and now she aspires to be a full-time practicing artist. She traveled with us internationally. She's come back to Tilbury. And so it's those case studies which I'm sure we've all got in the room, but those that's the journey of the aspiration in those communities. And going out and coming back with those stories then will empower the next person.
Thank you, Ali. And then as a final round, basically, and this is just the final question. I know we could be debating and talking much more, and unfortunately there is not enough time. So I'll start with you, Flora. So in one sentence, what should we do differently tomorrow?
Well, I think it comes back to what Latoya said. Well, what we should do differently, we should be funded properly, long term, so we could do things for a long time and work really deeply with people. And I've written extensively, we have a completely dysfunctional system. It needs sorting out. So what we can do tomorrow, I think work with children and young people and get them to want more and ask for more.
Thank you. Latoya?
I think what we can do tomorrow is to just turn our work, our practice upside down and on its head, and lead with what our citizens, what our audience feel, live, experience, and that be how we create and deliver.
Thank you. And then Ali?
I think we could take a listen from what Claire said this morning, and we could partner with the Fate of Britain, which would get us talking to all the kind of people with different views and build this movement.
Thank you. And then Aretha?
Yeah, I think it's along the same lines. Keep talking, galvanize yourself, share your data, share your information, share what you're learning, and continue to grow.
Thank you. So, well, thank you very much to our panelists, and thank you as well for being part of the conversation as an audience. So please join me to thank our speakers, and I know it's just us, and the end of it before I think it's a lovely like wine and drinks, right? So thank you very much, everybody, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, panelists. I'm basically here to wrap the day, really. But yeah, thank you so much, the panelists, for a really engaging and provocative and informative talk. And I hope that we had given you a productive and enjoyable time, hopefully, over the last 2 days. I hope that you made lots of new friends, made a connection with old colleagues, and had general fun talking to each other and hatched some new projects and things for the future. And I just want to say a few thank yous. A huge thank you to Cambridge City Council for the generous support in providing us with these 2 gorgeous venues over 2 days. And your staff, from the technical to security to front of house, have been absolutely amazing to work with. So thank you so much. And just a quick plug from our end, that we are looking for partners for future annual conferences. So if you would like to discuss with us, we'd love to have a conversation with you. I'd like to also say thank you to Arts Council England for the ongoing support to Outdoor Arts UK and our sector colleagues. And of course, Outdoor Arts UK team, David, Phoebe, and Samantha. You've worked very hard and tirelessly over the last 2 days and leading into this week. And of course, the board members also. Thank you to Red Herring team for the brilliant silent disco tour and the warm-up this afternoon. Again, they've been fantastic to work with. And of course, the artists and companies who animated the marketplace and the pitching sessions, you've really brought joy and happiness to the space here. And then all of the colleagues who spoke passionately in the open forum as well. And then all the speakers today who shared their insights and inspiration about the sector and the work that they continue to do. But the biggest thank you, of course, will go to all of you, delegates who have come here today and yesterday. You are the key ingredient for creating the buzz and the fizz of the conference. So we are, of course, very keen to hear from you, from any feedback, to make things even better for the future conferences. And we'll be sending those evaluation forms through to you via WhatsApp and through email afterwards. So please do let us know what you think and what you'd like us to do more in the future.